There we go. It was buffering for a second. Not sure how many people are still here. Took a little bit for it to. You smash that like button if you're still there. Let's see here. Get a couple more people on this live. I'm gonna actually share. I'm gonna post on my other channel too. Hold on one second here. One second, guys. I'm just posting on my community tab on my main channel to let everybody know that I'm going live. Cool. Just did that. All right. Handy Daddy. What's up, man? What's up, Sam? Lease plans for now, just like housing, they will go down. Yeah, no, that actually makes a lot of sense, and I kind of agree with that. But here are the main things that I see happening right now with aviation. So I think we're going to have some very big restrictions and regulations coming with domestic travel, commercial domestic travel. And so what I'm thinking is that what we see over the coming year or so is we're going to see many more businesses opt in to buying planes in that $300,000 to $600,000 price point, using those aircrafts as a business deduction, tax deduction, and having a way for them to be able to get their executives and really their people around without having to fly commercial. They're going to be able to lock in very low interest rate debt, kind of like what I'm going to probably do on this aircraft at 3.8% or 4% or maybe less. That makes sense. So even if they are paying a little bit for the aircraft now, they have that deduction. The other thing is that I think is what we're going to see is we're going to have more and more people that are going to, you might have one, $150,000 earner here. They're friends with another person worth another 100, making another 100, 150. They say, hey, why don't we both throw in 25 or 50K each? We'll use that as a down payment. We'll form a company, and then we'll use that company, and then we'll be able to basically share the expense of the aircraft and share the tax deductions with it. So I think there's going to be a much bigger pool, a lot more attention going into private aviation over the coming year or so. So if that does happen, there's only so many affordable aircrafts out there. But on the flip side, and here's where I agree with you, I do think a lot of the people that own aircrafts are going to have higher expenses coming. So this could be fuel cost. Airplanes take 100 low lead. There's going to be increased fuel cost most likely coming. There's probably going to be more regulations and taxes that could potentially come. But more importantly than all that is what I think is going to be the big problem is going to be affordability. And I think that people are going to have what's up, Jay? I think people are going to have affordability crisis with their small businesses, and they might have to sell because they're not going to have an alternative. So they might have to sell to bring some cash in, maybe make good on other expenses. But my overall aircraft experience so far purchasing one has been an absolute nightmare. It's been horrible. What's happened to me so far, I'm brand new. So a lot of people know a hell of a lot more in aviation than I do. Yeah, thank you, Jay. A lot of people know a lot more in aviation than I do. I'm brand new. I have like 30 hours in the sky, but I'm working on it. I'm putting a lot of effort in. Probably 4 to 5 days a week, I'm either in ground school or I am flying. So I'm clocking a lot of hours and I'm studying several hours a day as well. But I tried to buy an aircraft, like 2 months into school or 8 weeks, 7, 8 weeks in. The first aircraft, this is what's very interesting. This is one thing that I've learned a lot for all the people that are kind of new to aviation is there's two different groups of people. One is like the core pilot, really detail oriented, smart, right by the book, traditional pilot that you'd expect to, meet on a commercial airliner. Then there's a second group that's kind of like a little bit shady. And that shady group, I met one person that fit that caliber that kind of blew my first aircraft purchase. I had a really good plane, and I met this inspector through a person that I respect, that was very respectable. And I met this inspector. I had this inspector fly out to look at this aircraft. They looked at this aircraft. He told me in an email that it's like $9,500 to repair the aircraft. But then on the phone, in the bottom of the email, he said there's other expenses. Then on the phone, he told me that those other expenses would bring it the bill to about 100 grand, and the aircraft's only 300 grand. So 30% of the aircraft's value was to be put in for upgrades. It made very little sense. It made more sense for me to spend more on the aircraft. So essentially, what I ended up doing was canceling. But what I think ultimately happened there was the inspector was just trying to get another 2 grand out of me for another inspection on another plane. But meanwhile, I canceled the purchase on an aircraft that I think was probably a really good aircraft. The seller of that aircraft was actually, seemed like a very straight, like stand up, straightforward guy, a real honest, good guy. But unfortunately, that deal didn't work out. Then we tried to buy this other aircraft. And this other aircraft, the seller also kind of fits the same characteristic of the inspector. He told me that the total time on this engine was X. And then after I had my new inspector look it over and look at the logs, the actual discrepancy on the flight logs like 700 hours of total time on that engine. So what that ultimately meant was it was getting ready for an engine overhaul, which is going to cost you about 40 grand. So that wasn't factored into the price. So ultimately, that one didn't work out. Now I have a broker who is trying to find me a plane, and we have a lead on one plane right now, but this seller needs to find a replacement plane. And hopefully we get the answer soon, but hopefully this deal works out. But I'm telling you guys, if you guys are out there looking for planes right now, it is a battle. It's a seller. It's really a seller's market. There's so many buyers out there fighting for planes that people are just they're just doing whatever they can do to get one. So if I don't get a good plane, if I don't get a good price, I'm just not going to buy. I'm going to wait, but I'm going to do everything in my power to get a plane, to get something under contract, because the world's getting nuts. I mean, we're all seeing what's going on in the world right now. It's like you see what Biden's trying to put forward, like where you can't travel interstate. You see what all the new regulations are likely coming with all commercial travel. Things are getting absolutely insane. And what I think is very likely to happen is I think that over the coming 5 to 6 months, things are going to get even scarier. They said, Fauci said today that if all goes well, that we'll be back to normal spring 2022. If all goes well, what does that mean to you? That means that odds are things probably won't go well. And that's 6 months from now. That's 6 months from now. And we have so many problems on the horizon. So what do you guys think? I'm curious, what do you guys think about all this? Do you think that we're going to resume back to normal in the next 6 months and that everything's going to be fine? Or do you think that I'm right on the money here, thinking that we're going to have some big problems and that private aviation is going to really pick up a lot of interest? That's what I want to do on this channel, is talk a lot about aviation, my journey as a new pilot or new private pilot, what I'm learning here, some tips, and to connect with other people that are like-minded, that are planning for this. Because what I think is very likely to happen right now, and what I think is the most valuable resource that we can all have. Yeah, sure, it could be money, sure, it could be food and all those things. The most valuable resource is going to be connections. Connecting with like-minded people that are smart and sophisticated, that have a plan, that can offer you insight, that can offer you opportunities you wouldn't otherwise have access to. All these things are paramount. And I think that through aviation, I'm going to be able to open my sphere of influence to get around other people that could be of value to me, and maybe I could be of value to them, and I could bridge that relationship here on this channel so that we can all benefit from it. But it's just crazy. It's nuts. 6 months ago, I told my wife and my friends, like, I'm gonna get into aviation. I'm gonna get a plane. I'm gonna get my license. Things are gonna get crazy. And a lot of them were like, "Oh, you're nuts. Like, that's not true." My wife was on my side. Like, some of my real close friends agreed, but some of my other real close friends just thought I was crazy. But here we are, seeing all these like major headlines breaking every freaking day nowadays. Like every day, it's some huge announcement. And this new approval that just came out yesterday, what is this going to do? This is going to bring in massive regulation. This is massive regulation. Like I'm talking consistently with people around me, like, hey, we need to get somebody that is going to be able to do a lot of the stuff that we don't want to do, like go into certain stores and go do certain things and all these things, because you're going to need proof, and you're going to need certain things to do certain things, and you're going to need a team around you to, I think, support a normal life, because they're going to do everything that they can possibly do to see to it that you do what they want you to do. So if you have money, you have connections, you have, really the people around you, which is going to be most important, you'll be okay. And again, I'm not like commenting on, that main topic there, but private aviation, getting your private pilot's license, you guys can get a plane like cheap, like a Cessna 172S for like 20, 30 grand, the cost of a Civic. And private pilot school, 15 grand, 20 grand. If you go to there's some schools that might do it for 10 or 12 grand. So you think about it, for 10 or 12 grand, you could learn how to be a private pilot. You could buy an aircraft for 30 grand. You could finance that aircraft if you have to. Like that is valuable. If you're making 50 or 60 grand a year and your friends making 50 or 60 grand a year, you guys can make it happen probably together on an aircraft. So I think something very smart for people to do right now is potentially, I mean, if this fits into your interest, is learning about aviation, being a private pilot. I'm getting ready for my first solo, and I'm studying a lot because I'm going to probably live stream my first solo. And because I feel very confident, I've probably done 50 landings, 50 takeoffs. I've done the pattern a bunch, practiced all my maneuvers, studying weight and balance, studying my V speeds, studying like everything. So I'm literally putting in a lot. So when I meet with the sergeant next week, I get the sign off. I go ahead, I can do my solo flight. Yeah, a lot of people do. I get people even like in my DMs on Instagram, like, hey, you're selling fear or you're getting views. I'm like, you honestly think, like, seriously, like, you honestly think that right now, with rents being optional, mortgage payments being optional, student loans being optional, unemployment benefits extended for 53 weeks, 53 weeks right now, and they're rolling out a whole new like welfare type mentality right now, and it's been 18, 19 months of this. Like, this isn't 2 weeks or 3 weeks of like, oh, just a little. This is like coming up on 2 years. This is coming up on 2 years. And people are still living in an era where, it's 2018 or 2019 again. No, like, we're stepping into something new. What I think we're stepping into is we're going to be stepping into an affordability crisis. People say, oh, it's inflation fears. It's inflation fears. But you also look at it to the other side. People say, oh, no, we have a shortage of housing. We need 5.5 million units. Well, you can use that. That might make sense. But also, you look at how many jobs are available, right? People don't want them. People don't want the jobs because they can get by without the job. So you think of it, it's not really like a housing shortage. It's not so much, the inflationary fears. People like their comfort. They like their comfort. And if they can get on some type of stimulus payment that's consistent, they've thrown out figures like $2,000 a month. They get on that $2,000 a month. What's ultimately going to happen is you're going to see people downsizing their life and doing whatever they can do to where they can work the least amount possible and get by. That's what I think. I don't think that we're stepping into this like new entrepreneurial America where people are fighting to live in $3,000, $4,000 a month apartments. No, I think we're going to have this affordability crisis. I think rents are going to come down. I think that corporations are going to run out there and buy blocks of debt from banks, and it's going to become, the middle class is basically going to get wiped out. So, this is what's ultimately going to happen. I don't think we're going to be opening back up anytime soon. I think all these problems are going to unfold, inevitably. And during this period, I think the smartest thing we can all be doing is learning, studying, getting around really smart people, paying off debts, getting out of high interest rate debts. And I think downgrading the lifestyle, if need be, to accumulate capital and to put yourself in a position to where you can make a life-changing decision when all this stuff hits the fan. I'm certain employees right now, and not one wants to come to work. Yep, that's 100% true. 100% true. People think that a minimum wage should be $15. Honestly, you can't even live off 15. You can't live off 20. You can't live off 25 if you live in a city, right? But you think about it, at that same point in time, there needs to be a win-win relationship between the employer and the employee to where it makes sense for both of them to work together. If the employer is only getting $25 worth of value out of the employee, then who pays for the lease? Who pays for the products and services you guys are selling? Who pays for the utilities, the workers' comp? Who pays for all those expenses? And that doesn't factor in for the actual business owner making a dime. So there needs to be a margin above it. How can there be a margin above it if we're stepping into what I believe to be is a really big labor problem? Sam Zell is a smart guy. Equity Residential, third or fourth largest landlord in America, said we're stepping into a welfare society, and he's putting his money in gold. Like, what is this? He said he's been saying for decades, don't buy gold, because you pay to store it, it doesn't provide passive income. But now he's unloading and buying a lot of gold. It makes you wonder why. It's probably because he wants to store value. He said 1970s is reminiscent of today. And if you look at the price of gold from 1970 to 1980, when we got off the gold standard, the price of gold 10x'd in that 10-year window. 10x'd. And he's dumping money into gold. It makes sense to potentially buy some gold. Palantir, software company, they're now saying, let's accept gold and let's accept Bitcoin, right? And that same guy, they're buying planes, they're buying remote homes like in New Zealand and other places. People are they're looking for backup plans. And I think a great backup plan here is an aircraft. I really do. It's not going to be for everybody, but it's the price of a used car, a Cessna 172. Price of a used car, a $30,000 or like a brand new Civic. So if you're doing well, you're doing well, this could be something that could be of interest. I do think that we're going to have some big travel restrictions coming the next 12 months, 12 months, probably less. And this private pilot's license is going to be something that will have immense value for a lot of people. That's why I'm here. That's why I started the second channel to talk a lot about, aviation, to talk a lot about what I'm learning in this journey, to connect with smart people. I'm going to start doing live streams and podcasts on that plane. I'm going to do everything I could possibly do to open opportunities. And I think all of us should be doing the same thing. Opening opportunities with smart people that can offer insight onto things that we don't know. I see this world going nuts, and I see some of my smart, like really smart friends worth, 20, 30 million bucks. And they act as though we're in 2019. They don't think anything is up, everything is cool. And I'm like, dude, how? How can this be? Like, you're buying buildings at like a fixed cap rate. If rents fall 10%, like most landlords are going to get wiped out. You think about that, right? If you're buying a building right now at a 5% cap rate and rents drop 10%, what does that do? It means you're operating that building at a loss. How long can you operate a building at a loss for? That's the question. And we're soon going to find out that answer. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about being a private pilot? What do you guys think about aircrafts? Would you guys ever get into something like that? Like-minded people is tough. Definitely. I was in Mexico. I went to Puerto Vallarta, and then I went to Guadalajara. And I did that for, I don't know, like maybe 2 weeks. And I get a message from my friend, childhood friend, really, when I say childhood, I'm like 19. Really smart guy. He plays poker tournaments for a living. On Sunday, he plays a tournament, and then he has some people that he educates and teaches in like a private group. Not on really social media much, but the guy is really bright, really smart, got into Bitcoin early, and he lives like a rock star type lifestyle. And I told him like 6 months ago, dude, things are gonna get nuts. Like I want to buy a little place out in Mexico. Maybe I want to get something out there as like a backup plan. He's like, dude, like, don't worry about it. Like, Mexico's straight. You're fine. Like, you're stressing. Like that's like how he talks, right? I'm like, okay. He DMs me or messages me on Telegram like a few days ago saying, dude, I can't even go into 7-Eleven and buy water without it. I can't go do that. I'm getting followed on the beaches with a drone. Like literally the drone's telling me to cover up. He's like, this is insane. And I'm like, yeah, I told you, man. Like, and he's like, yeah, I mean, I'm literally just reading, trying to figure out and learn like what I should be doing. So that's what I mean, that's what's happening in Mexico, right? So if that's happening in Mexico, you imagine what's going to be coming to America. Look at New Zealand, look at all these other places in the world. The world's changing. And I think all of us as investors, all of us that are looking to get ahead in this world need to really build out a business and a plan based around the current reality of where we're going, not based on a former reality of where America once was, because we are changing. We are turning into a new America. Why do you think a lot of smart investors right now are buying up land? They're buying up land that doesn't produce an income because it's a store of value. They're making sure that the land that they acquire has a natural running water source, like a stream, the creek, a river, right? And a lot of people are now buying crypto. A lot of people are buying precious metals. But you think about it, you look at a lot of the smart money, they're changing their strategy. They're changing their strategy because new information came in. They reviewed the new information and they're making a smart decision based on that new information, right? They're not speculating so much. One industry that's gaining a lot of attention right now is industrial real estate because they know e-commerce is likely only going to grow. I've been dumping a lot of money into a stock based in South Korea. I'm not plugging the stock. I've actually been losing money on the stock, but I think it has a lot of potential. It's called Copang. Like Bill Gates, a lot of people are buying into like Vanguard, BlackRock. A lot of the companies are like buying into it. They say it's going to be like the South Korea or the Amazon of South Korea. But what I think is very likely to happen is I think closure is going to be coming back to South Korea and people are going to be forced to use e-com and there's not many options out there. So people are creatures of habit. They like quick, prompt service. And this company looks like it has the infrastructure to deliver that service. So it's really kind of like a bet on where I see the world going, which is going to be more at-home delivery, more e-commerce. And I think this company is likely it's going to continue to expand. I think they're expanding now in like Japan and I think it might be Singapore. But they're expanding. I think that's going to be one of the big options going forward is going to be e-com. I think e-commerce is going to just keep growing, growing, and growing. And, this is where I see things going. People are not going to be traveling as much. The world's going to be changing. And we take this information in and we make decisions accordingly. Yeah, got to make these money moves, man. You really, really have to make money moves. Right now, I'm building out a real estate fund. I'm spending about $20,000 just on the paperwork to get this going. All these other people that are really big in real estate on social media are investing into real estate, buying multifamily real estate. I'm actually doing the complete opposite of every single person. And I'm actually betting against the real estate market. I think that the real estate market is 100% going to be going down. And so the real estate fund that I'm starting now that will be live probably in the next, 2 to 3 weeks, that fund is, I think, going to do really, really, really well. The only way it doesn't do well is if unemployment gets to 3% and everyone starts making a ton of money and they can afford the housing appreciation at current day levels. But I don't see that happening. My son. Calm down, Rocky. I got a sheepdog here. Uh-oh, he just fell. You all right? He's not too happy right now. He's fine. He's tired. Hold on one second. I'm going to check on him. No, he's a sheepdog. He's good. He's all right? Okay. Yeah, he's got I had like swimming class today. I got him in all these different activities. He's young. He's really young. He's like 19, coming up on 20 months actually next week. But I have him in all these activities. He is just he's exhausted. Back in the day, we all go, do all these different sports and activities. And nowadays, like no parent wants to do that because they're afraid. We'll get them like in soccer and swimming and all this stuff. So, but yeah, I have a real estate fund that I'll be talking about more in the coming few weeks that I think is going to be a really big opportunity. But you know, it's based on the logic and the numbers of what's happening. I think what's going to happen though is come the winter time, if they do close things down again, small business is going to be toast, because if they lose the incomes on the holidays spending, like if they lose tourism, they lose Christmas shopping, they lose all these big holidays, these small businesses are going to not have the float and the capacity to continue on because of all the losses that they've already incurred. So that's what I think. I think that if they do see a period in the winter where we have closures, that will be the final nail in the coffin. That'll be the final nail in the coffin. But that's my whole real estate fund is based upon the notion that prices will be going down in a few years. But you look at the stats, you look at the actual projections of, or really the reality of how much rents have increased over the last decade. It's not sustainable. These rents are not sustainable. Housing costs are not sustainable. The debt levels that everyday Americans right now are holding, not sustainable. So look at what Michael Burry did in the housing crisis in 2007, 2008. I think he made like $800 million or a little bit more by betting against the market. Exactly what I'm going to be doing here. But drop your comments below what you guys think about where you guys see rents going. Do you think rents are going to sustain at these current day levels, or do you think we're going to see rent reductions coming soon? Also, please smash that like button. It really helps this channel, helps the video do better as well. Let's see what they're going to say. Yeah, I mean, in South Florida, for example, rents, yep, they keep propping it up. But for how long? How long can you really prop it up for? Rents in South Florida have picked up 14%. 14% in the last 12 months. The rent reductions will be based on a variety of factors. What I think is very likely to happen, and why these rent reductions will happen, is that we're going to see a series of actions happen. The first is we're going to see small businesses not be able to withstand the upcoming storm. The second is we're going to see more companies go online. And I'm going to comment on the BlackRock thing in a second. We're going to have more companies going online, and these companies are going to be outsourcing a lot of talent from, Asia. They're going to go from India, Japan, China. They're going to be recruiting top-notch talent, because if people are working from home, why not do that? Then what I think happens from there is we're also going to start seeing, like Elon Musk, what he's talking about with the Tesla bot. We're going to start seeing more and more jobs starting to fade away to automation, robotics, and technology. That'll probably be like the 2 to 3 year plan. Why I think BlackRock is acquiring a lot of assets right now is they're doing it. It's interesting. They're actually using a lot of taxpayer funds to acquire these assets. And Kamala Harris is the top economic advisor on their board, on BlackRock. And so you have Kamala Harris basically telling BlackRock what to do and giving them the information on where things are going. Then they have access to very, very cheap capital. And if you look at the actual data, they have $46.5 billion in assistance money that was given for landlords, and only $3 billion has been dispersed. Then you have the big corporations like Invitation Homes and others that are booking record-breaking profits, and they're getting like 97% rents collected. So what's interesting is that they can say, hey, you know what? Rents are going to be $1,800, and last year was $1,500. And if people don't pay, they're just going to invoice Congress, and basically we just pay for that. So they're building in rent increases on our dime. It's crazy. So basically, they're working with Congress to screw the middle class. And rents are going to definitely keep going up, and BlackRock is going to definitely continue buying more and more properties. That is without a doubt. They're going to step in and buy more and more assets. But It won't just be BlackRock. It won't be BlackRock. It'll be Facebook. It's going to be these tech giants are going to roll out there too and buy assets because they're sitting on billions and billions of worthless American dollars. They need to put it into something hard, something real, a real asset. But I think the smartest move of all, as I've mentioned on a former video, would be for them to plummet rents, like really take a $1,600, $1,800 rent, drive it all the way down and incur a loss. Take it to like $800, $900, incur a loss. They invoice, Congress for the difference. They invoice them, and on the actual money that they're losing, they invoice them. They're getting the difference. They're bleeding out the middle class. A lot of the middle class landlords aren't going to be able to hold on at rent reductions. Then they move back in and they acquire even more assets. So the people that have good tenants, people that are making it, this is one way for them to push them into a place of submission. Landlords just trying to recoup money. Why can't small business associations goes pay landlords directly, get an online site? Yep. Yeah, exactly. So you asked that question, right? It's like they got stimulus money out pretty quick to a lot of people, right? They already had 3 stimulus payments out to people, unemployment benefits out quickly, but $44.5 billion is sitting in the sidelines. Maxine Waters even told, when I say them, I mean small landlords that are asking for relief, it's better for you to go to the bank and get a loan than wait. What does that say to me? It says that, hey, we misled you. We might have lied a little bit, fibbed a little, told you that you're going to get money from us. And on the flip side, we're actually going to tell you to accumulate more debt so that way you're in a weaker position than you currently are in. And then why would they do that? And they're sitting on $44.5 billion. Maybe it's so they help in association with BlackRock and others to roll out there and start acquiring more properties. So when we actually look at this information, then we all incorporate everything into what I'm saying here with the aircraft. Having a private pilot's license and being able to travel around, again, it's not that expensive. 30 grand, you can get a cheap Cessna 172. 15 grand, you can actually get your private pilot's license. With that, you're able to travel. You're able to move around as the world starts getting scarier and scarier, and crimes and situations on aircraft start picking up. People are going to start being a little bit more, I think, hesitant to get into big crowded environments, especially as there's like more and more violence and stuff like that. I do think your private pilot's license is important. I think being financially secure is very important going forward. I think getting responsible with any bit of high interest debt that you have that's not mandatory is important to get rid of. But really structuring your business plan for the future and not in the past is what's going to make someone very wildly successful versus someone that's going to be in the welfare system that is getting rolled out in front of us. But I'm going to take my son out for a bite to eat. I just wanted to hop on here, kind of give you guys a heads up on what's going on with the plane purchase. It's been kind of a pain. No decent 172 will be cheap. Prices are crazy right now. Yeah, yep. Prices are crazy, like against everything. Like the plane that I'm looking at, it's just like, it's nuts, man. It is like, and I'm literally searching every single night. I'm on controller.com and I'm trying to talk to brokers, showing them proof of funds. Like, hey, let's try to find a deal. Like I spoke to one guy that helped my friend buy an aircraft. He bought an absolutely beautiful aircraft. And he's like, hey, I'm going to introduce you to my broker. And we played back and forth like phone tag for the last couple of weeks. I got him on the phone yesterday, and he told me that this is the smallest, the slimmest of pickings that he's ever seen in his 15-year career. He's like, oh, the Bonanzas, I've seen it as much as 72 Bonanzas available on controller.com. And now we have like 10 or 12 or 13. It's like, I've never seen so small of inventory. And right now I'm working with 9 buyers. I know you're like a referral, but I don't even have the time to work with you, like to give you the respect you deserve as a client and all of the time. So I won't be able to do that for probably 3 or 4 weeks. And like this guy's getting a 3% or 4% commission. He doesn't have time to deal with it. So that just kind of shows us, where we're at in terms of that market. That market's following very closely with the housing market. seems. But yeah, I'm gonna give you guys an update. Hopefully, we get something under contract. I'm gonna probably fly out there and do that. But I'm also probably gonna live stream my first solo flight coming up next week. So maybe I'll live stream it. Nah, I'll probably just film it and then I can just upload it because I'm not going to be, obviously looking at the screen at all. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Consider subscribing here on the second channel if you guys are interested more in like my personal life, what I'm doing to protect myself, my family. If you want to learn kind of how I'm sorting the housing market and what you guys should be doing, in my opinion, to get a leg up on the world going forward. I'll see you guys in the next live stream.